which is all very heavy and like intense and godlike. And then by the end of the movie, he's climbing onto his roof to like look outside.
What we're realizing is that Karma is actually just this old man. He's a human just like you and me.
Yeah, the photos at the end just show that Karma Searing's able to look back on his life. He's looking back on a life in the mountains, which is the ultimate goal for some people. I guess he becomes a lot more human in that last scene.
Except he's enlightened. He's lived this beautiful, full life, and that's our goal as well. And someday we could be as cool as Karma Searing. If you've seen our movies, you know that it's not just like pretty pictures or whatever. There's symbols, there's like meaning. We hope, that's what we try for. A good, easy example that's from Into the Mind is the birds. And then, of course, the raven is a very powerful bird for people who live and spend a lot of time in the mountains. Almost spiritual role, especially those who've lost friends and mentors in the mountains.
I had some spiritual moments for sure there, like delirious moments, like gnarly dreams, awesome dreams while I was there. And then some solo hikes while you guys were hunkered down in Karma's lair. I went out and spread some of Sarah's ashes in the mountains. It was an awesome thing to do.
It's pretty common folklore around here, at least in Whistler, that you know, those are the old shredders of the past, and they're looking over us as we go skiing in the mountains.
The first time that the sun actually came out was when we were higher up. We had set up a puja ceremony in the Pengboche Gompa, which is the oldest monastery in Nepal.
Renan and I went in there, and
the Lama was giving us a prayer.
And all of a sudden, we turn around, there is like the most beautiful beam of light I've ever seen in my life, coming down in perfect symmetry into the center of this like magic room.
The awnings on the top of the monastery were also blowing in the wind and splintering the light into different beams.
We hadn't seen sun in like 2 weeks.
It's just the most amazing display of natural light.
Almost looks fake. It was like FOMOS like never before. We just like basically somersaulted across the room. Usually with FOMOS, as soon as you get your camera in focus, like the light beam just disappears and it's gone. But it wasn't until we got back to the edit bay that we realized the sort of potential narrative of these shots. Our protagonist goes through a very tough time and suffers an incredibly bad accident. I remember like sitting there editing and being like, okay, now I'm gonna make like the death segment. To me, the urn, the smoking urn, represents the spirit of the protagonist. Sitting in the light, the monks are the messengers basically that'll carry him, and the masks are kind of judging and deciding what they're going to do about it, because he's really, really close to death. And in the end, the monks decide to rekindle the fire, you know? So fire in our film's a big symbol. It happens when you're really raging, when you're living life to the fullest, like skiing in Bella Coola, suffering really hard when you're climbing in Bolivia. That means your energy is there, and like it's almost a philosophy of why humans have to suffer, this segment. The urn starts to get rekindled, the fire starts to get rebuilt. Karma's building up his fire, the monks are building up the fire until it's finally ignited. And that's when you see Kai and these guys in Bolivia just suffering. So that Bolivia segment was really supposed to symbolize this climb out of hell, like going to the very bottom place that you can possibly go in life and climbing your way back out of there. And it takes a lot of fire in the heart to do that. And from there in, we saw lots of beams of light. After that, the mountains came out.
The higher we went, hiking along out there, it was a crazy world to spend up at 18,000 feet or whatever. You know, my brain works at sea level with sea level oxygen. When you take that away, like my brain did different things up there for sure.
Tennis player, hockey player, football player, I can like I can't do it, but I could see how you could do that. Porters in Nepal, I'm just like looking at them being like, that, what you're doing right now is not possible. Ridiculous feats of humanity, like 100-kilo loads on their back, and they're like passing me up the gnarliest trail on the side of a crazy cliff with like, it's just ridiculous. You know, the best part of all of these trips that I get to go on in the making of these films is the people that I meet along the way. After meeting Renan, the movie really took its form based on Renan's true story. Actually, Renan himself came really, really close to dying in this crazy ski accident, and then came back after that to climb one of the craziest routes in the world. So his story actually became entrenched in the film, and really the story of the protagonist is basically the story of Renan. Confront death right in the face, and then miraculously have the chance to be reborn and try again. And you actually see some of that real footage of Renan in Into the Mind when he's being whisked away to the hospital. So up at our high camp, which was about 19,000 feet or so, porters had brought us the cranes, the epic camera, they brought us all this canvas and paint and all this stuff. So we got the chance to shoot these really high production value shots. Shooting Renan as he paints this beautiful mural. He's really a artist, like a true artist from his soul. And I suppose our trip, it's just like this artistic inquisition, just going into this world, which really turned out being more like going into the mind. And the light was good, and we're like, oh my God, these are the coolest mountains. So Renan's just teeing off, like pulling out every piece of Kessler equipment he can find, and like setting up these crazy dollying, panning, moving time lapses. There's literally like 6 or 7 cameras all clicking away, running time lapses. One thing that I really was looking for was a cave to come out of, like some sort of hole where the camera could sort of emerge into this massive mountain range, supposedly going into the mind.
What do we got here?
We've run out of tripods or support. We've got rocks precariously stacked on every brace point.
And Renan spent hours fiddling and tinkering with this thing until it was actually worthy of setting a camera on top of.
And when it was all said and done, Dave was trapped behind the setup in the back of the cave.
I'm currently locked into this cave because the tripod blocks the way out.
It was like a ridiculous situation where I was just sort of stuck in this tiny little hole, thinking.
It's the highest that I've ever been off the surface of the ocean, and it really makes you feel weird. Oh, it's turned out to be quite a shot.
He had to go into his mind because he was nowhere he could go.
And Renan dubbed it the Into the Mind time-lapse. Strangely enough, that's exactly what it became. In the film, it was the perfect place for us to put the title, Into the Mind.
FOMAS does pay off.
The fact that we were both stubbornly chasing after every little moment
Pays off in probably some of the best shots in our movies. It's another word for working super hard.
Cruise around in those mountains with good friends, and it was a life changer for sure. Take a lot from my time over there.
Though we certainly didn't capture everything. We probably get about 2 or 3% of the shots that we tried, but those 2 or 3% that worked out are really, really special. And we're incredibly fortunate to have had the chance to go.